My esteemed friends, welcome to my channel. I am Alexander Musienko, and now we will talk about what is happening in the negotiation process. I know and see that this question concerns you, it interests you, and you address it in the comments. And now we will try together with you to sort everything out and understand it. Although, in fact, it must be acknowledged that as of the moment I am recording this video for you, there is actually not that much information yet. But ultimately, based on what is emerging in the public space, we can try to understand at least what is being discussed, how it is being discussed, and reach some logical conclusions. I already have them, and now I will share them with you. But before that, please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like this video and be sure to write in the comments what you think about the negotiations. Riyadh is very interested in your point of view. Do you believe at all in the progress of being able to agree on something with Russia right now, without the appropriate pressure on it? So, as is known, yesterday the negotiations between the Russian and American delegations lasted over 12 hours. And despite the fact that Putin's press secretary, Usi Peskov, Putin's family as they call him, claims that there were no statements because the issues were purely technical and therefore there is nothing to comment on or officially report on the Kremlin's website. At the same time, it should be noted that 12 hours, let's analyze the responsibility. Is it really 12 hours? Can purely technical questions be discussed, or was it about something more, and was there any betrayal involved? Well, the fact that it was about something more in the negotiations in Riyadh between the USA and Russia, I think that is undeniable. Well, for example, such a case. The deputy chairman of the Defense Committee of the Federation Council of Russia, Chizhov, said that the USA and Russia could not adopt a joint statement after the negotiations due to Ukraine's position. Allegedly, Ukraine is interfering, Ukraine is ruining everything. Next. Interestingly, The Guardian, a popular and respected British publication, notes, citing its own sources, that during the negotiations in Saudi Arabia, the Russian side is trying to emphasize its dominance, demonstrating that it has a favorable position and is imposing its own terms. The Kremlin has announced points that could become the basis for ending the war in Ukraine. Well, what are these points? According to the publication, once again, they talk about what with them. These data were shared by very reliable sources. So, first, the cessation of foreign military aid and intelligence support to Ukraine. The same old story, we understand this, the limitation of the Ukrainian armed forces numbers and international recognition of the 4 Ukrainian regions that were illegally annexed. Russia, some of them are occupied to this day, some they annexed like Crimea, and Crimea is included here too. Well, the recognition of these territories as Russian. So what does this mean? This means, if we follow these reports, as well as what the Russian publication, the Moscow Times, wrote, citing its sources from officials close to Putin, that Russia still insists that now is the time to raise and address the territorial issue of the seizure of Ukrainian lands, claiming that they are supposedly included in the Russian constitution. Accordingly, there is allegedly no reverse mechanism for their exclusion from there. The mechanism that can actually exclude them is the armed forces of Ukraine, the defense and security forces. This includes the Security Service of Ukraine and our other special units. Today is the day of the Security Service, which I congratulate. I wish success and new achievements to those involved. Yes, the defense forces of Ukraine, the armed forces, which are currently demonstrating successes on the front, pushing back the enemy and reclaiming positions directly on the front, in the Pokrovsk area, in the Kharkiv region, and in the Kursk region, preventing the enemy from advancing, destroying them. Enemy positions in the Belgorod region, preventing the development of offensive actions in the Bikar, Kvichina, and Sumy regions. This is the tool that can change the constitution of Russia. And this is what Russia truly fears. That is why they strive to do everything to press their position in negotiations, to secure better conditions for their own ships in the Black Sea. for their own ships, which have found themselves cornered, stationed, and based in unrecognized Abkhazia. And when the full-scale invasion of Russian troops began, these ships could be seen near Odessa and the Odessa region, specifically these Russian ships that were preparing to land troops on Ukrainian soil. But things did not go as planned, and we see that Ukraine was able to achieve successes. What is Putin afraid of? In the Black Sea? In the Black Sea, he is wary of the fact that we constantly see improvements, the technical capabilities and capacities of Ukraine at sea. Innovative technologies, we see smart technical solutions that give Ukraine an advantage in the Black Sea. I think many of you have seen how recently new updated drone models were demonstrated by the main directorate, developments of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, which are not only kamikaze drones themselves, but can also launch other drones, effectively like surface missiles or torpedoes. And the opportunities to destroy the enemy's potential in the Black Sea are increasing. Many other such things are emerging, technological innovations, and Ukraine truly inspires admiration. I know this from personal experience, and I can quite responsibly share and say that admiration, our Western partners are impressed by how we strengthen our capabilities and capacities despite not having the same potential as Russia. And how do we demonstrate this at sea? Many take this as an example and actually want to learn how to adapt this Ukrainian experience to their own realities, each in their own way, but at the same time they learn and try to adapt. And that's why Russia wants to deprive them of this. It is likely that Russia could have directly raised the issue of expanding opportunities for its own commercial vessels. And there are great risks here because we understand that Putin could use this to export stolen Ukrainian grain from the occupied territories in southern Ukraine and trade this grain with various countries, and in no way care about food security in the world. That is, they will demand that these trading ships be accompanied by Russian military convoys, which can pass along the Ukrainian coast, in which undoubtedly there are extremely significant challenges and threats, and we understand this perfectly. These are the demands of Russia, which they may continue to impose, as Russia tries to push the situation to absurdity. Once again, because they, you see, need further negotiations with the UN and possibly other countries. What could these be? Countries? I suppose that perhaps Turkey, because this is an attempt to renew or refresh, update, or even reboot the so-called grain initiative, but on terms that Putin would prefer. Most likely this is also being discussed, which is why they are being delayed. And what does it mean to involve the UN? What does it mean to involve other countries? And this means more meetings, then exchanging opinions, and then once again parting without statements. And the process is being prolonged. What is the purpose of the delay then? The purpose of the delay is to, frankly, tire out US President Donald Trump so that he himself starts realizing that the process is dragging on, that it is taking a lot of time. That, obviously, there will be no ceasefire by April 20th, May 9th, or any other upcoming dates. In the perspective of a few weeks, it is not progressing. And so, what needs to be done? Start putting pressure on Ukraine. This is Russia's goal. And here Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, openly says this when he mentions that Russia's goal is for Washington to pressure Kyiv so that Ukraine is ready to make concessions. Otherwise, they say Ukraine doesn't listen to Washington, and is not ready to proceed, and so on. In all of this, it's interesting what the Russian logic is, because at the same time, they claim that Ukraine is supposedly disrupting the negotiation process, and that agreements could not be reached, and therefore there will be no joint statements from Russia. The same goes for the results of the meeting in Saudi Arabia, because they say, you see, Ukraine is disrupting. So in fact, to this day, these traps, that is, they remain unchanged. This Russian handwriting is evident here. It is very noticeable, and it consists of the fact that the Kremlin still seeks to effectively drive a wedge between Ukraine and the USA, and to openly pressure and blackmail Trump by being ready to agree to a ceasefire, thereby adding accordingly, well, including advantages and political dividends for Trump, especially now in the USA. Again, this scandal, which is related to the correspondence in the Signal Group, and the question arises about the future of Michael Wolff, the national security advisor to President Trump, in his position. Because there is, in principle, certain information being spread in the media that Wolff might, let's say, be held responsible for this story and he might face consequences. And in fact, he himself will resign in order to, let's say, deflect these threats from Trump. Well, and therefore, of course, to now counteract this negativity that will arise from these issues and possibly others, there's Canada, Greenland, the internal unrest in the United States of America. So Putin is trying to set a trap and suggest that the United States, let's say, Mr. President Trump, increase the pressure specifically on Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine is not capable of making agreements. But in reality, it is Russia. Now, we see it is violating this and delaying this process, and this needs to be understood. Well, it seems that we will wait for statements from the Ukrainian side. I think they will come, and we will receive more news about this because the situation continues. It is being prolonged, predictably due to the Kremlin's fault. And about further developments and news in this direction, I will definitely keep you informed. Well, for now, friends, take care of yourselves. Subscribe to the channel. Glory to Ukraine.